Thank you, guys. Thank you, Lisa. First off, just wanted to thank the History of the Diving Museum for inviting us here to talk tonight and tell you a little bit about Force Blue. I look around the room, see some familiar faces and everything, but for the ones who haven't met me, my name is Angelo Fiore. I'm with Force Blue. I'm one of the directors at Force Blue. There's four of us, Jim Ritterhoff being the executive director and Keith Som being the chief executive or the chief financial officer and chief operating officer, and then myself and Steve Gonzalez were the guys that the pretty much out in the field guys. Um, my specific job is the director of the diving operations. So tonight, what we're going to talk a little bit about is the organization. You heard Lisa mention that we've been around for 10 years now, and we'll just go through this little presentation. It is a little scary because I got a Zoom call going here. I got this computer going there, and you got this big screen happening up there, and what can go wrong? So we'll see what happens. All right. We'll just kind of wing this thing, build this airplane while we're flying it. Um, so the creation of Force Blue was established back in 2016, and it's the only nonprofit that's an organization in the world that retrains and redeploys former special operation veterans that have been military trained through one of the military diver schools, whether it be Naval Dive and Salvage Training Center over in Panama City, the schoolhouse down the road in Key West, or you go out there to Buds, the Naval Special Warfare Training School out there. So the Special Operation Group is the guys who have been formally trained through some type of a military diver school. And the purpose is that we take those retrained combat divers, we repurpose them to work alongside the scientists and environmentalists on marine conservation missions. Now, the unique thing about this is it was formed in 2016, and like any good organization that's out there, it came off of a bar napkin. So you sat around in a bar one day and they were figuring out how to do this thing. And the story goes that I'm not sure if how many people in the room are familiar with Rudy Reyes. Rudy Reyes is a former recon Marine. He talks about this openly. He got a little sideways early on in life, and one day, him and Jim Ritterhoff were, he met up. They met up. They had a relationship, and Rudy, like I said, was in a bad way, a bad spot in his life. And Jim invited him to go down to Grand Cayman the night before. He was taking his daughter with him, and it was like this little family vacation. And they had to bring Uncle Rudy with them, and so it got kind of interesting on the trip. But they brought him down to Sunset House, where Keith Som was the general manager down there. And Keith, they put him up, and that whole week they went ahead and they did some good diving. Rudy enjoyed it, the therapeutic feeling of the ocean, being around that just tranquility. And next thing you know, man, they just sat around and they were stretching it out on a bar napkin. And, lo and behold, man, 10 years later, here it is. I came along, I wasn't there for the bar napkin signing, but I came along shortly there afterward. I'm usually the plus one, the founder's plus one. So that's where I fit into the picture. Um, so Force Blue, the concept was, harkening back to the days. It's not the first time this has ever been accomplished. And people look at First Blue, and you heard me talk about a little earlier. It's the first and only organization in the world that does that retrains and redeploys special operation veterans. But it's really been tried and trialed and errored before. And it's been harkened back to the days of Jacques Cousteau and the French Frogmen, where he trained his cadre and all the guys that were surrounding him, and they would go on missions. And for some of the people in this room, you remember back in the early days, the Jacques Cousteau adventures, the shows that used to be on, I think it was ABC or something to that effect, and they sailed around the world on the Calypso. And Force Blue has assembled a modern day cadre of elite military, so with the ability to achieve great things in conservation front, the visibility to let the world know about it. And that's the unique thing about Force Blue in that Jim Ritterhoff is the only person within the organization that is not a veteran. However, he's just a next level marketing guy. And he in all of our missions and everything that we do, we're always out there telling the story of everything that we're supposed to be doing. Because by doing that, it brings the awareness. Yeah. Okay. So through the composition and through that commitment, Force Blue has been building a model of caring cooperation, corporation, and positive change with the power to restore lives on the planet. What I can show you right now is a quick video. It's about a 3-minute video. It kind of just sums up everything that Force Blue is about and what's going on. And hope
One of the things that's very synonymous with all veterans' experiences is a loss of identity when you leave the service.
That darkness started tearing me apart. When we go to places of sacrifice and suffering.
What if service didn't have to stop?
The reason you can get past all of the crazy things that happen is because you have a team there driving towards one thing, which is mission. You can get past everything until you don't have a mission.
What if skills honed over a lifetime of sacrifice could be repurposed?
There's this front line of scientists and marine biologists, but they're under-resourced. What we can do as a military force with a sense of mission and purpose is we can bring those skills to bear, focus less on veterans' problems and more on veterans' potential.
What if the linchpin of transition became the launch pad for success?
Our soapbox is worn out, but when you talk, people listen.
Working with the Force Blue team, we realized that this is our time to change the tides.
Where would it take us?
Veterans are teaming up with the NFL to clean up trash in the Gulf of Mexico.
Now, these divers are about to go into the Salt River. They're going to be looking for apple snail clusters, and it's going to be a real challenge.
Unique to LA is its kelp forests that have been decimated from an overpopulated sea urchin species.
What could we change?
As soon as we create sort of a plowed field, up to 750 different species will be able to move in.
We can help this animal by taking it in. Their specialty is in treating turtles that have these tumors.
Today we transplanted 125 coral fragments, and it brought our grand total up to 5,305 corals.
Who might we inspire?
I learned that the world is a lot bigger than we all think, and we are very lucky to have what we have.
We're teaching them how to embrace discomfort and risk and challenge. We can't carry that by ourselves. We can share in that together.
It's a two-part mission. One is to heal the ocean, and the second mission is to heal ourselves.
When I came back from my first dive mission, my wife and daughter could see that energy again. They could see me so happy. I was part of a team again.
These guys are our heroes. They've switched gears, but they haven't stopped being who they are. Now it's up to us to let them lead us, not into war, but into conservation.
To be in meaningful groups where I can develop that sense of continued growth beyond our experiences, that has tremendous value.
We're fighting for something innocent and something that needs protection, and that's the ocean.
Hopefully everybody was able to hear a little bit of that or come through. It's a little 3-minute video. It is on our website, so you guys can go there and check out the video. It's at forceblueteam.org. It's like a little, very much so. What was that?
This slide is important.
This slide is important, okay? And we'll come to that. But the reason why it's important is because I know that over the last several years, especially down here in the Key, a whole lot, there's some Publix grocery stores. And I'm in the month of April. When you go to check out at the register, they have a register campaign going on. And in that register campaign, they'll talk about, would you like to round up your dollar to the next amount, or would you like to make a contribution to veterans doing marine conservation? We're the organization that money comes to. And with that money, we've been able to go ahead and fund about 10 missions a year throughout the state of Florida, all the way from Pensacola, all the way down to Key West and up the northeast side of Jacksonville, up in that area as well. We'll talk about some of those projects, but we've also been able to go ahead and fund an ocean conservation school. An ocean conservation school is where we will train through the funding. Okay, we'll go ahead and train little Gold Star children. Now we've expanded it to severely injured veterans, and we've also expanded it into first responders. And what you're doing is every single year we're taking these young individuals, these young adults, young teenagers, putting them through an experience of learning how to scuba dive. But it's not just learning how to scuba dive so they walk away with a scuba certification. They're actually walking away with a sense of service, because in that sense of service, we train them how to scuba dive, but there's also a service project that's built in. It could be anything from marine debris cleanups, fish counting. There's all different types of conservation work that we usually incorporate into the program. So when you don't know how you're going to impact these individuals I've found that out firsthand where you're talking to an individual, you don't think you're getting through, and then 5 years later, they send you a message on how much of an impact you made on their life. And that's what we're hoping to do here is just start a force multiplier for the next marine conservationists. These guys are starting, some of these kids from the very first one we started several years ago have now gone on to college where they are learning some type of marine biology or marine science major. So the public's campaign is called Good Together. It's an environmental campaign. It's all about coastal conservation. The money that you're putting, the money that you round up at Publix, at the grocery store, it goes from anything from marine debris cleanups, coral restoration. Presently, we're involved in installing, I believe it's going to be in October, another nursery offshore here where we'll be installing more trees and everything to go ahead and to do some type of for future restoration. We've also done a lot of oyster shoreline defense systems, very big out in the Panhandle, up in the Destin area where we've done, 1,500 feet, 2,000 feet, 59 tons of oysters where we've been doing a lot of that stuff. Over in the Crystal River area, a lot of tire debris removal on Gomez Rocks, over there, Gomez Rocks. So we've been constantly moving around the state. All of this money that Publix has been sponsoring comes from your rounding the dollar up. It's interesting because we have, over the last several months, kind of just blows my mind, we've started spending a lot of time here in the Keys doing marine debris cleanups. And the marine debris cleanups, we've been pulling out over 4,000 pounds in a series just a couple days of just trash, and what we really expanded on the marine debris by utilizing a team to go up inside the mangroves to pull some of the trash that's out of the mangroves up in there. And I'm thinking one day we're over there by Ragged Edge Resort. I think in the course of 2 hours, we pulled 3,000 pounds of trash just up inside there. And I'm not talking, 3, 4, 5 miles. I'm talking just in a size of a football field, of an area that we were working. So we were able to go ahead and that's what we've been embarked on. So the Keys, because the way the current, the way the wind blows, everything of that nature, a lot of marine debris gets hung up in here. We're offshore doing some stuff, pulling a lot of anchor chains off the reefs. That 3,000 pounds that I talked about, that was just up inside the mangroves. That didn't count the other 2,000 pounds we pulled off the reefs and everything. So it's kind of amazing. But anyway, we've started a campaign right now because, when you start doing these marine debris, and where are you doing them at? Well, we're doing them in the Keys, but you have to be more specific because the Keys are huge. So we actually are on a campaign right now where we're doing next week, we're on a marine debris cleanup up in the northern section of the Keys, up in the Key Largo area. We'll be working with Silent World. Here's somebody mentioned Silent World. We're going to be working with Silent World up there next week, and NOAA to do some stuff up there. But we've done Isle Morada, we've done Marathon, we've been down to Big Pine Key doing these cleanups through the course of the year, as well as other ones out throughout the state of Florida. But the Keys are a hot spot. Some genius back in the early 70s thought it was a great idea to dump about a bazillion tires off the coast of Fort Lauderdale with some steel cables in it because the ocean and salt water doesn't do anything to steel cables. But anyway, those steel cables broke, and now you have a bazillion tires out there flying around. They're trapped in between the reefs. There's a 3-reef line out there, so you have a lot of tires out there that are trapped within the reefs. They're just acting like pinballs, just bang, 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 bang. So we're presently right now working with the Department of Environmental Protection, Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the Army Corps of Engineers, to go ahead and get secure permitting to where we'll go work alongside some other contractors. We're not down there to take the actual project over because there is a contractor that is doing the actual bulk hash, but there's a lot of rogue tires that are out there flying around. Our job is to go out to go find those rogue tires and to go ahead and secure those and pull them up. You'll go ahead and see over here, this is out in Destin. You'll see all this little shoreline defense systems. One of the projects that we are very much involved in is the invasive species and then obviously the marine debris and then coral restoration, all funded by Publix. One of the unique things that Publix came up, or we came up with, and Publix thought it was a great idea. I think several years ago, there was an issue. Obviously, the water is always warm here in early June, July, and a lot of the corals were dying off, especially the ones that were in the trees that were out here hanging. So there was a theory that if you move the coral trees to a some deeper water, that maybe the cooler water, they would have a fighting chance or a better chance of survival. Um, it took a lot of time to mobilize people, volunteers to that nature. What Publix was able to do was to give Force Blue a funding to whereas we have it in a secured area to whereas if we need to and somebody needs to help in the state of Florida, whether it be coral restoration, marine debris cleanup, or something to that effect, that's got to be something that needs an emergency. We actually have a funding in place from Publix to whereas we can deploy a special operation team to come do some offshore assessment, offshore coral restoration, offshore repair within 48 hours. QRF was formed in fall of the 2023. Publix was the first company to provide funding to Force Blue for its quick reaction force, a team designed to help Florida's marine scientific community and environmental agencies respond quickly to coastal or marine environmental emergencies. So we'll respond to anything that's like hurricane related, coral disease. Coral disease was the big one because it just came in real quick. Marine mammal strandings, debris cleanups of that nature. We were presently, I think we were over in, there was a lot of damage over in the Tampa area around the piers and stuff like that we needed to go over and do some marine debris cleanups, and we were over to do that. Some of the lessons that were learned, you would think that you take a scientific community and you pair them up with a bunch of veterans out there who are trained to do certain things. But what you learn is that opposites do attract. And the interesting thing about this, the guy on the right, that's Rudy Reyes. He's the initial one of the founders for Force Blue. But opposites do attract. And one of the things that we've been able to talk about is, here we are as a workforce, and all we know is just go, go, go. Get up and go, work, 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 and our job is done when the mission's done. We don't. It's not sitting around taking coffee breaks, lunch breaks, and that nature. We're just out there working sun up to sun down. But the scientific community, what they're lacking is just that helping hand. We're not trying to be the scientists. We're just trying to be that helping hand, that workforce that can help them accomplish what they're trying to do on a daily basis. And that's what we're doing. At the same time, what's interesting is that, you heard in the video before, I don't know if you can really hear it, that everything is great, because we're mission driven until we don't have a mission. So the purpose of Force Blue is to provide that mission. And there's a whole lot of work out there in the ocean that needs kind of tending to. I'm sure you guys being here at the museum and being out here and being aquatic and everything, how many people in here are certified to scuba dive? The whole room. So I'm sure, I would be confident to say that everybody heard of Dr. Nichols, Wallace J. Nichols? He wrote a book called Blue Mind. And with that concept, it talks about just the healing of the ocean. Just being in the ocean is what being in, on, around, near the water is so therapeutic and tranquil that it's what brings that extra medicine to the people. Blue Mind is working in an area of just clear-headed, just tranquil, calming things down. Then you have another side of things called Red Mind, where you're constantly operating in a state of chaos. Blue Mind is just being in that tranquil position. I know Jay has passed away here several years ago, and he was a vital member of Force Blue. But you talk about feeling silly or being very humbled. There was in this picture right here, we all think our lives, we get caught up in our daily lives and how important they are, and just the chaotic effect of us having the way we operate every day. And I was in a room with him one day, and he took this blue marble, and he's like, "Man, hold that thing up to the sun." And I held it up to the sun, and and he goes, "Well, that's what our planet looks like from a million miles away." And I'm looking at it, I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "And look how insignificant and small you and your problems are within this planet." And it really brought you back down to, how small we are within the universe. And I always took that with me. I love Jay Nichols. He was a great guy, still is a great, I mean, obviously he's not with us anymore, but we carry his thoughts, we carry his message with us. And we hope that that message resonates with the people that we interact with. The name of the book is called Blue Mine. It was a New York Times bestseller. Next slide. But salute to service is as a veteran, and as a member of Force Blue, we are consistently embarking on just continued service. It's the way, it's the DNA, it's the way you're built. We're just constantly, doing things. Myself personally, I can't get away from it. It's a disease. I'm a high school baseball coach, and I'm constantly, for the money that I'm getting paid, you wouldn't believe it, but I'm out there just doing it because of you're mentoring these young individuals, and it's kind of fun. And I keep going back every year. But it's continued service. And about several years ago, Force Blue made a commitment to the National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration to go ahead and visit all of the national marine sanctuaries. There's 18 national marine sanctuaries. And our job, and you heard me talk about Jim Ritterhoff being that next level marketing guy, our job is to create the media to go out and document these national marine sanctuaries so that it can create awareness to the rest of the world on how important these sanctuaries are to the world, these national treasures. And we've had the opportunity right now to visit a bunch of them. Right now, we are in the middle of all these public missions that we're doing. We are still embarked on this salute to service, this tour of duty. Presently, we went ahead and just completed one up at Gray's Reef, where we were doing some monitoring up there. In September, next week, actually Saturday morning, I'm leaving for Oswego, New York, to go up and do some documenting on the Lake Ontario, the newest marine sanctuary that they just brought on up in Lake Erie. And then in September, we're heading out to Los Angeles, out to Chumash, to go ahead and document that one. Last year, we were up at Alpena, Michigan, Thunder Bay, Mallows Bay up in Maryland. There's been so many of these things that we've been going to, and it's been very, for us, you learn it, here you are, you live in the United States, and you don't really realize half the stuff that's going on. But it was incredible to get up there and, to embed with the people of Alpena, or you go up to Mallows Bay and there's a ghost fleet up there. Did anybody know that? With over 100 ships sunk in the bay of, right? Up in this area up in Maryland, Mallows Bay. There's over 100 ships, 100 steamships that are sunken, that were very critical to World War I and the mobility of the infrastructure for the United States.
Freshwater or saltwater?
Freshwater, brackish water. So it's just a tremendous effort by Force Blue in collaboration with NOAA, and it's just quite honestly a fun project. Okay, you guys ready? Yep. Oh boy.
In 2022, to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the formation of NOAA's National Marine Sanctuary System, the Special Operations veterans of Force Blue launched their Tour of Duty, a commitment to perform marine conservation missions in and around each of these 18 national treasures.
By going to all of these different parks and all these different areas, Force Blue are connecting there, communicating there to say, we need to look after this as veterans, we need to look after this as people on the planet.
That same year, Force Blue introduced its Ocean Conservation School, a program designed to train and inspire the next generation of marine conservation leaders, and to give children from military and veteran families a way to honor their family's legacy of service.
Having a shared background has been emotionally very healing for a lot of these kids to know that they're not the only ones going through this.
Before this weekend, I've really just been introverted and kind of just staying away, but after this weekend, I've realized that I guess I'm a people person.
This year, in celebration of our nation's semi-quincentennial, and in partnership with America 250, Force Blue is uniting these two programs under one banner. From August 2nd to August 8th, Force Blue will be hosting its 2026 Ocean Conservation School at Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary in Alpena, Michigan. Students who attend will receive NOAA open water scuba training from Force Blue instructors, undergo physical training with Force Blue Special Operations veterans, and be introduced to Force Blue's culture of continuing service. All the while learning why the fight to preserve and restore places like Lake Huron and Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary is so important.
For a long time, I would want to do stuff that was better for the environment, but now that I see that there's a community of people who want to do better for the earth, it seems more worth it.
Force Blue is currently looking for sponsors willing to support this effort. If your company or organization would like to participate, please contact Force Blue Special Projects and Events Director, Steve Gonzalez. Force Blue's National Marine Sanctuaries Tour of Duty and Force Blue Ocean Conservation School. Giving warriors a cause, giving a cause its warriors.
It's a very unique program, the Ocean Conservation School. Obviously, one of the things, being involved in Force Blue as director of diving operations, I've also been involved in the diving industry for over 30 years. Having recently just left NOAA, I was the senior vice president for global operations. Can't tell you how much this is the reward and just that self-reward that you get, or that feeling that you get of accomplishment, of just that cathartic feeling of just helping other individuals trying to discover new things. It's very rejuvenating because being in an industry whereas we just take it for granted, we do it every day. It's kind of fun to see when you go out and take some people out there where they get all jazzed up, energized, and find that second life, and it kind of reinvigorates yourself. So I'm proud to be a part of that organization. I think it's been an extremely crazy 10 years. I remember when we first started in Grand Cayman, my wife literally, Rudy Reyes knew me. He asked me to come. He knew my background in the Navy. He knew my background in the diving industry. He asked me, the way Rudy talks is like, hey, brother, man, it's like one of those things. And he goes, hey, brother, man, we're putting the boys back together. We got to come up with this plan and this and that. And I'm like, okay. And I literally didn't think the duck was going to fly. But my wife was like, you know what? You really need to go down there and make sure these guys are okay. Go help them out because who knows what their diving capabilities are. So I went down to Grand Cayman, spent 14 days, best 14 days of my life. Got to hang out with some really cool people, build some great relationships, and help build an organization that here it is 10 years later, making a positive impact on the environment, but most importantly, making a positive impact on communities and touching lives and to that nature. So with that, take questions. Yes. We are very technical qualified. We do, as a matter of fact, I'll share this with you, because of the government shutdowns that happened and some of COVID that happened, it really impacted NOAA, and it impacted NOAA's diving program. Force Blue has been tasked to create a NOAA volunteer dive force, so that we're all right now going through the process of becoming NOAA divers. So in the event that NOAA does get shut down or NOAA, some emergency happens or whatever may happen that limits their force, they're able to have an augmented force to go ahead and continue their diving operations. So that's where we are right now. So the question was, it was in reference to Dr. Wallace Nichols and his book, Blue Mind. Quite honestly, with that comment, you're probably going to make me cry. Because Jay was an outstanding individual. He impacted everybody's lives in a crazy way, to the point to whereas everywhere I go now, I just see, I don't know why I do or how it happens, but I just see these blue marbles or a blue stone or a blue whatever. And it always just resonates with me and sticks in my mind. And it always brings me back to that humility of like how important my life is and my problems, than how really insignificant they are in the grand scheme of the universe. And Jay really dialed me in that day. And, he went through a rough patch, man, where he was caught up in those California fires. But, going through COVID, going through the fires, he always remained positive. He always remained making that positive impact. And he just made the best of everything. And he made us at Force Blue better human beings for who he was. We're actually right now on this National Marine Sanctuary tour that we're on. we're trying to, Jim Ritterhoff in conjunction with the foundations, are trying to actually install a Blue Mind memorial in all of the national marine sanctuaries. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Lisa?
Cleaning up our reefs.
So the question is pertaining to the tires out off the reef in Fort Lauderdale, in the Fort Lauderdale region. So again, they happened back in the early 70s where they deployed a bunch of tires in theory to create an artificial reef. Basically what happened was the cable ties that were holding everything together, they corroded, they rotted through. Now the tires are loose. There are several companies out there that are right now working as a commercial company that are pulling them out and putting them through a recycling center. But there is another organization out there. I'm not really sure. It's the one who does the bracelets, I believe. I'm sorry?
For Ocean.
Yes, they believe they have a small permit to go ahead and pull some tires and recreate some of their stuff. But our job would not be to intervene with what those guys are doing. There's rogue caches that don't fall under their purview that we would be working to do. Yes, ma'am. So the question is in reference to the coral restoration or the coral trees in the water that became so warm to where they started experiencing stressing. That's a heck of a question to ask me in front of Ken Niedermeyer. So with that, and the guy's sitting 3 feet from me. So it's a heck of a question. So quite honestly, it was in theory. Ken would be better served to answer this. We did not have the opportunity to interact to move them. I don't even know the challenge was at that time when the stressing was going on and the water was warming so quickly was to mobilize the volunteers quick enough. It was like something where these trees needed to get moved. I was under the impression of like less than 4 or 5 days where we couldn't mobilize a force that quick enough. But we were able to go ahead and learn from that and secure funding for future stuff. Ken, is there anything that you can add to that, or did it work, or I don't even know?
It worked. Made a big difference.
It did
Not
work.
just here, but in the Caribbean, we did it there too.
From the Godfather.
And we're set up to do it again if we need to.
Right on. There you go. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, kind of to that. Is NOAA the main scientific organization that you work with, or do you work with other?
We work with a lot of different organizations. We're pretty dialed in with the University of Miami several years ago, 5 years ago, actually, in conjunction with some of our partners. We're very good partners with the NFL. We created, it was 5 years ago, 6 years ago, they had their 100th anniversary for the NFL. And the NFL was, they decided to go ahead and plant 100 pieces of coral in honor of the 100-year anniversary of the NFL. And they called in Force Blues because the veterans, the whole community and everything of that nature. So they made this big production about it. We're all sitting around, yeah, we'll do it. It's pretty cool. But at the end of the day, it was like 100 pieces of coral. It's going to take us about 10 minutes. So, and I'm going to tell you, it was a spectacle. There was a lot of boats out there, helicopters, news crews, storytellers. There was a lot of things going on that day. And Jim Ritterhoff and his wisdom, and his just innovative and dynamic approach was like, 100 pieces of coral. How about if we did a football field underwater? So hence 100 Yards of Hope was born in conjunction with our partners up at the University of Miami. And we went ahead and that year, it was a year-long project to where we were successful in installing a 100-yard football field of coral underwater. Actually underwater. No, it's underwater. But and it's still there. And right now we're getting ready to head up there the 29th of July to do every year. We do a little monitoring project, check it out, and it's super healthy. It had about an over 80% success rate. So we're heading back up there to do a monitoring thing. We do bring some people up there to kind of check it out, that nature. We're very big partners with the NHL. The NHL has they're more into shoreline defense systems. So we do a lot of stuff on the shoreline defense and some types of marine debris cleanups and stuff of that nature. Does that answer your question? What's up, Les?
Hey man, how are you? So I gotta tell you, you guys did an awesome job with those kids.
It's just an incredible program going through and teaching them to dive. My question is, especially with that segue with 100 yards of hope, what are you doing with those kids after they're certified?
So they, believe it or not, there is a continuing education. I'm sorry. So the question is, with the Ocean Conservation School, yes, the kids learn to learn their entry level programs, but the question is where they go from there. So we do have scholarships in place, a Damian Massingham scholarship, so the kids can go ahead and take advantage of a scholarship for continuing education. We offer alumni diving. We do bring some of the kids back who want to come back. But I don't actually have the numbers of what the continuation was, but many of them have. The one kid you saw in the video, Goose, the kid who talks about being an introverted, extroverted kid, he's moving on into that field. Caden, the one kid who talks about with the bandana on his head, he consistently joins us on as a mentor now to help train. I think he's at least 23, 4 now. He's coming up to Alpena, Michigan to act as a mentor and help train. He went ahead and got his, I believe it's his dive master certification, where he's coming in as an assistant to help train and mentor the newer kids that are coming back in. So it is a force multiplier. And like I said before, you never know who you're talking to. 5 years from now, you may be looking at the next, whoever, Sylvia Earle.
Where is that 100 yards of hope?
It's off the coast of Miami in a secure location, secret to everybody.
So
I don't even know where it's at. I never even know. I just show up out there and it's just like, hey, it's here. Okay.
get there in a boat.
It doesn't take long. It's like 20 minutes. It's right out of the inlet. It's only in 30 foot of water. It's in the university, one of the University of Miami areas that they do research in. We were able to go, and in part of that program, I think we asked about partnerships. Florida Aquarium was a partner on that. The interesting thing about the 100 Yards of Hope, which made that program such a unique success, was it was in conjunction with the 2 Super Bowls. The Super Bowl in Miami, and then the following year, the Super Bowl was in Tampa. So the 100 Yards of Hope was the 100 pieces were as a result of the 100 yards that we were going to do in Miami. As a result of that, the Tampa Super Bowl was, well, wow, what does that got to do with anything? Well, the actual corals that we planted in Miami were coming from Tampa. So that was the first time in the NFL's history that they were able to tie something together like that, to able to go ahead, and that was the significance of it. 2 Super Bowls in the same state, directly connected to each other, installing it here, growing them here, and then we were planting them offshore.
I've never heard.
So the question is, how do you connect with Force Blue if you're in the military? So we do on our website, there's information at forceblueteam.org. There is information on there that you can go ahead and sign up or whatever it may be. There is a criteria, obviously. We do work with volunteers of that nature, but it is on the website at forceblueteam.org. Any other questions?
And Angelo, you're here this week training a new.
So the question is, I'm here this week. No, the question is about training. About every year, we bring on about 8 new veterans. Some of them just recently getting out. Matter of fact, 2 of the veterans that are in here right now they're recently discharged within the last 45 days. Working with Key Dives, Eye Care as partners, but more importantly with the Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation, who sponsors this training, this veteran training. Jessica and Guy have been doing I can't even begin to tell you what they've meant to the organization. I mean, Jessica came and Guy came shortly after the bar napkin was scripted out. And they believed so much in the organization that they've been able to go ahead and just stay with us, like Jay Nichols. You saw Patty Kirkrose's name up there. She's, very instrumental in what she's made to this organization. But it's the Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation helps us in funding, along with the Seedling Foundation, where we've been able to secure funding for these veterans to come in and train 8 new individuals annually. We try to maintain that balance. I mean, because I got to tell you, the amount of applications that come in on a daily basis is insane. And quite honestly, like I said, Jim Ritterhoff and the way his marketing, his production team works, um, they put these movies out there, these documentaries out there, and it makes the organization look actually bigger than it really is. But the truth is, we have this running joke that it's just, when you pull the curtain back, there's just a couple guys back there playing Uno. But in response to that, and I think where we got a lot of attention was at the 80th anniversary for D-Day up in Normandy. We were able to go ahead. We were contracted by World of Warships, Luminox, and some other manufacturers to go ahead and actually do a documentary called Frog Fathers, which tonight is being over at the Discovery Center. They're over there showing Frog Fathers 2, the sequel, which was the anniversary, which was the Battle of Okinawa. So we've been doing these documentaries. They're on Magellan TV. They're on Fox Nation. They've been all on a lot of those. Apple TV, I believe, is one of them too. And right now, Frog Fathers 2 is in negotiation for another release. Netflix, I think, or Amazon.
So you've been doing this for 10 years. You have probably about 80 active.
Well, right now, our bullpen, the question is how many do we have? How many veterans do we have? We started with 5. Okay. And I think maybe a year or so later, we brought on another 6 or so. And then kind of, COVID wrapped in there. And since then, right now, we're up to about 60. Got to maintain the balance because, we don't want to make it so that we have 3,000 guys there or individuals. And, because, hey, we're a football team practicing every night. We don't have a game. So we try to maintain that balance to whereas we have the amount of projects that we have with the right number of people. So they're actively engaging and moving along with the projects. Fortunately for us right now, we're doing about 2 to 3 projects a month, 5-day-long projects.
And you just rotate from your bullpen.
Yeah, we do. We'll send out a message to the guys. They're out there. We have at the beginning of the year, we have a sign up list for all the list of all the missions that we have for the upcoming year. And they plug it into their schedules and they go ahead and I'll volunteer for this one. Some of the guys we see 1 mission a year. Some of the guys we see every month. So it's based on what your availability is.
Anybody else?
Explain more about outside of scuba diving.
Yeah, so is every project a scuba diving?
So great question. Okay, so the question is, are most of our projects mostly in scuba diving, marine conservation, or subsurface? And I would like to say yes because it would be a lot easier. But every now and then, when you see guys like Dan Skidmore, okay, who just I really think that the Aquaman suit came from him. But you see those you see the guys with these physiques and everything, and the next thing you know, we're putting sledgehammers in our hands and we're breaking rocks. So when we were, it was the Super Bowl down in New Orleans, down in Leesville. Amazing story. A town that was swallowed up by the water. The amount of water that has invaded the bayou is the size. They've lost the amount of land mass that they have lost in Louisiana is equivalent to the size of Delaware. So there was a town called Leesville, and the town, you're sitting there looking, and it's nothing but a bay of water, but 15 feet underwater is an actual town. And there's a cemetery there, and there's your mother was buried there, your father, your family is buried there, and it was so surreal. But there was an area that they believed that if we can go ahead and install some type of oyster reefs, which was 1,500 feet long, it was 59 tons of oysters to honor the 59th Super Bowl. So that was a long day. It was not scuba diving. It was just, bulking, all day, humping all day long. But we had 1,000 volunteers from the community. We formed a bucket brigade, and we were just passing bags of oysters all day long and building up. And that reef is still out there. It's actually done really well. They're expanding off of it. We've done those up in the fun ones are the limestone rock ones up in the Destin, where it's like you just see these massive limestone rocks in wheelbarrows, and it's like prison work. There's no other way to put it. So anyway, I'm sorry.
So one question from my mind, are most of the diving operations they're clearly with scuba gear. Are there any that utilize like technical diving gear, like going deeper than the recreational limits?
So we are embarking right now. We are. The question is about.
Do you ever dive beyond?
Yeah, do we ever dive outside the recreational limits? So our manual is built to incorporate technical diving. We do have several guys on the team that are technically qualified. We are, because of NOAA and some of the national marine sanctuaries that are out there, we're training right now to do some of the deeper stuff, to monitor, which is one of them. That is a project that's on the horizon. There's some of the stuff out in Monterey that we're looking at doing, so that is deeper stuff. So we are in that process of doing some type of training, securing units. Some will probably be doing some of the prisms. We do full face mask. So we do expand other than outside of scuba. Go ahead.
What projects you've done and what's coming up?
There's a running site on there. The question is, how can you follow along with the projects that we've done? You can go right to our website, forceblueteam.org. Every week, like I said, every video, every project we do is usually documented. There's probably, I don't even know how many, there's probably 30, 40 videos on that website. You can go ahead and watch and follow along, and you can also follow us on social media in our Force Blue team, whether it be on Facebook or Instagram.
Thank you all for being here tonight. Angelo will be around for a few minutes, so if you want to come up and ask him questions. The History of Diving Museum would like to thank you with a 1-year membership.
Stop.
I would say you could come in for 362 days, but I don't want to keep you from all of your missions. So just come when you're in town.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much.